How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about ChargePoint. It ended up having a pullback on the Friday, being down just over 5.8%. And many are asking, why did ChargePoint pull back so much? I always tell you, stocks just don't go straight up. But with the coming week that we have with the CPI data and so forth, I want to make sure you're prepared. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is a technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to be going on FinTel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for ChargePoint. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $16.76, being down 5.84%. On the low, it tested $16.75, and then on the high, testing $17.69. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 7.328 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 7.732 million shares. So right around the average there, but we saw some weakness in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it is at 44.55. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, you can see that we are below the 200-day. We're also below the 21-day EMA. We're also below the 100-day, but we are above the 50-day. And what we can see clearly what's going on, we had a good amount of profit taking when we had this support right at the 200-day moving average. And then as far as where we're at right now, being at 1676, I can see the sell-off continue for this coming week. And the possible level where I can see us get to is right here around the 50-day, which is at $15.87. So you'd want to see support here hold for ChargePoint. This would be very key because if we do break through this level, then I'd be very curious to see if we have buyers stepping in at $15 a share. It is very possible for this to happen. As you can see, there has been support, but of course, this would be a wait and see approach and see what would happen. If you're interested in ChargePoint for the long term, I would just wait for it to pull back even further. That's what I'm seeing in my personal opinion. If it decides to have a reversal or you want to see some strength, of course, it's going to need to come back above the 21-day EMA, which is right at $18. So if we can reclaim $18 and consolidate and build support, then we can look forward to seeing a potential pop going to $20. It also has a gap that needs to be filled to the upside, which is right here around $19.38. So you want to keep a very close eye on this play because ChargePoint, when it does show strength, as we've seen previously with its run up, it can get moving. So let's see how it performs for this coming week. But one thing that we can see clearly from the chart, there's a good amount of selling pressure and we want to see that ease. So now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for ChargePoint. As we scroll down, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings we have here for April the 8th, we have a closed position from Barber Financial Group Inc. and they completely went out of their position. But if we take a look at other positions that were done on the 8th as well, again, these weren't new or they weren't closed, these are just changes. We have no value changes here as you see from the percentages, but we do see from Optimum Investment Advisors reducing their position by 16.13%. And now when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 68.80%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 2.003 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 550,000, updated 15 minutes ago. And then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 1.0 1.10%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 7th, it was at 68.69. And then for the close of the 8th, being at 68.80. So one thing that is clear, ChargePoint does have short squeeze potential, especially with the short interest percentage of the float being at 14.08%. And this is actually a minimum that you can look for, but again, that's why you want to keep this play on your radar, because a catalyst could easily get the stock moving again. So let's go on to the order flow distribution.
Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for ChargePoint. On the inflow, it is 12.90 million, and on the outflow, it's at 15.30 million. So we ended up having an outflow day. Taking a look at the breakdown, on the large, it was 0. On the medium, it was 6.87. And then on the small, it was 6.03. Taking a look at the outflow side, of course, it was 0 on the large. On the medium, it was 6.63. And then on the small, it was 8.67. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, we have zeros down the board. Analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more buying than we had selling. And of course, for the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, we had 0 on both sides. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 2.18%. And this is not too bad for a growth stock like ChargePoint. There are still many who are holding on to their positions. And what we're clearly seeing is just a bit of profit taking and also the reaction to the choppiness we've been seeing in the markets. I'll give you guys more of an update in the final thoughts, so let's get into it right now. So for my final thoughts for ChargePoint, when it comes to the price action, if we continue to see a pullback in the stock, I want to see support hold at $15.87. If this level ends up breaking, then we can visit around $14.30. So add that to your homework and as well as your due diligence. If you're looking for a reversal, then ChargePoint needs to reclaim $18. And upon reclaiming $18, there is a gap that needs to be filled to the upside, which is around $19.46. So add that to your homework and as well as your due diligence. Again, I'm giving you guys a bearish case scenario and also what it looks like in the bullish case scenario. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, there are many shorts who are vested in this play. And it's no surprise due to the fact that ChargePoint is a growth stock and they haven't shown consistent profitability. Just recently, they ended up getting some more financing of $300 million. And when we take into consideration the 10-year yield, which has spiked all the way to 2.70%, stocks like ChargePoint are not going to be flourishing in this kind of environment. When they're relying on all this financing in order to grow the company, these stocks become less attractive. It's carrying on even more risk. So that's why I say if you are going to be in this play, you need to make sure you have high conviction. It is very crucial. And if you are an investor, especially a long-term investor, and you're seeing the stock pulling back, you should be excited. You shouldn't be frustrated. If you were doing a swing trade and you were able to ride this stock up when it was in the $20 range, then you should have been protecting your profits. You should have been using risk management. I want to make sure I'm emphasizing this. Stocks just don't go straight up. They have to consolidate or they have to come back down before they make another move up. And if you're in a play like ChargePoint, since it has a lot of volatility, this is something you should be used to. The stock has been doing this over and over again. So make sure you have a strategy and you're paying attention to what's happening in the charts. I know I sound like a broken record. I know you guys are probably saying, Dre, you're always telling us this, but I want to make sure it sticks in your mind, especially in the year of 2022. We're seeing a big time shift in the markets, and that makes me want to get to the next point about the CPI data that's going to be coming out on April the 12th. And this poses importance because if it ends up being above the average or above expectations, we could see a big time pullback in the market, and that's why I gave you those levels to the downside. But if it ends up meeting expectations or being even below that, then we could see a potential rally, and that's why I said this is what ChargePoint could potentially do to the upside. So you're prepared in both scenarios. So whether you want to be a bull or a bear or maybe an investor, you should have a good idea of where you want this stock to go or where you want to be able to actually take your position at. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see how this stock performs for this coming week. We'll talk soon.